And Brandon, we're going to move on, and now we are at the top. The two Oklahoma teams are all that's left, and the one we're going to look at first is, I might be a man, Brandon, but I am not 40. Do not get it twisted. I am not Mike Gundy. I might be a man like Mike Gundy, but I'm not 40. Just wanted to get that clear. Talking about the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and really the player we have to look at first on this is what position, Brandon?
Defensive end, right? Kicker.
Yeah, the kicker. We're going to look at the kicker first.
Quarterback?
The quarterback.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I'm looking for. Yeah, we're going to look at the kicker, see how many kicks he's going to make this year. But no, Mason Rudolph, he's the player that some thought would be in the NFL draft last year, decided to return for one more season at Oklahoma State. And really the question is, this is a Cowboy offense that returned 7 starters on offense, none more important than Rudolph, entering this year. And he was the nation's second, the number 2 active leader in career passing yards per game with just over 300 per game last season, over 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. I'll ask you this. Does Mason Rudolph have a better year this year? And how viable are the Cowboys with him and this offense to be the Pac-12 champions in 2017? Or not Pac-12, Big 12 champions in 2017. It's been a long day. Big 12 champions in 2017.
I hear you on that long day. So you take a look at it from 2014 when he came in as a freshman till now, 2017, start of 2017. He has gotten better each and every season. 853 yards in his freshman year. Sophomore year, over 3,700. And then now in his junior year, this past year, had almost 4,100 yards. And then the touchdowns went from 6 to 21 to 28. And the interceptions went from 4 to 9 to 4. I think, honestly, as long as Mason Rudolph stays healthy the entire season, he is going to be one hell of a draft pick in 2018. And if Mason Rudolph stays healthy the entire season, he gives Oklahoma State a very real opportunity to win the Big 12. And the reason I say that is because I'm already assuming he's going to get better than what he was last year. It's hard to do better than 28-4, but the guy is good, and he just seems to continue to get better and grow each and every season. And he's got weapons around him, Ricky. He's got a lot of weapons around him, and that's what makes it really exciting.
Well, and the thing that I look at, I know that I don't want to say I'm overlooking the defense here, but I think Oklahoma State, I said it earlier that Kansas State could be, if all the planets align, the second best team in this division, could be a team that rivals Oklahoma to win the Big 12. But right now, I don't see the planets aligning. I think this Oklahoma State team is going to be very good this year. And how I see, if I'm going 1, 2, 3, I know I have a week before you can hold a gun to my head, and I have to give you my hold me to 'em predictions. But I think the top 3 in this order stay suit almost for this year. Oklahoma at 1, Oklahoma State at 2, and Kansas State at 3. I might flip Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Ask me in a week. But I look to last year. Only 3 losses for this team. And those losses came against the first one. I know Oklahoma State fans have already probably said something in the comment section like, don't even say 3. We lost 2 games. We should have never lost that Central Michigan game. There was a penalty on that last play. Shouldn't have been a touchdown. Da-da-da-da-da. Whatever. It was a touchdown. The ref missed the call. You lost 30-27 in an amazing last play where Central Michigan's quarterback Cooper Rush went 4 of 1. 4 touchdowns to 1 INT, whereas Mason Rudolph only had 2 to 1. That game being aside, because that one could have been flipped as a win because of that call, the only 2 games you lost were road games. Baylor early in the year, Oklahoma. And the thing that I look between these 2 games is Oklahoma's the one where it's going to be a crapshoot to me. Because you walk into that game And it's Rudolph versus Mayfield, whoever does better. And in both of the games against Baylor and against Oklahoma, Rudolph got outshined by the opposing quarterback. For Baylor, it was Seth Russell. 4 touchdowns for Russell, 1 INT. Mason Rudolph only had 1 interception, didn't have any touchdowns in that game. They lose by 11 points. Against Oklahoma, you lose by 18 points. Rudolph, 0 touchdowns, 0 INTs, has only 186 yards, which is almost half less, closer to half less than it is to how many he averaged last season at about 300, compared to Baker Mayfield, who went 3 touchdowns, no INTs. So to me, Mason Rudolph and this Oklahoma State team, they have the tools, especially offensively, to win every game on this schedule. The thing that is lucky for them is that Baylor's not the same team they were a year ago. They have a lot of pieces that are now gone after the scandal that they had. I think that they have the talent to beat every single team on their schedule. The big one that will be circled, though, and I think what it will come down to in the end is November 4th. I hate that it's not the last game. It should be the last game because it will be the conference championship game November 4th when Oklahoma comes to town to play the Cowboys.
Ricky, I don't want to give out any spoilers here because I know next week is when we are talking predictions.
Yeah, I get to hold the gun to your head.
And everything like that. Yeah, well.
Metaphorical.
I'll be honest, thankfully, I've never had it happen before. Thankfully. I'm sure some of our fans would like to do it. But after looking at FanSided and going through each and every week, they've got them in a perfect season. Perfect season.
I could see it happening.
And then they are the 3rd team into the college football playoff.
Wouldn't that be
Oklahoma State.
Wouldn't that be something? Big 12 team making the playoffs.
Oklahoma State has a real opportunity to do so. And they've got a passing game, and everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. When you say Oklahoma State football, everyone knows you're talking about Mason Rudolph football. I mean, that's who you're talking about. But look at who else they have on this team that's helping him. They've got Justice Hill on the ground.
James Washington.
They've got James Washington in at the receiver position. They've got so many guys. Jalen McCleskey.
I was just going to say.
They've got guys all around the football on this offense that if you just take all the other teams away and you look at right here, these pieces, what they've done, what they have the opportunity to do, you'd go, those are some good stats. It's pretty good. Those guys did really well last year in the last couple of years. Yeah, this team's going to win it. This team's going to win the Big 12.
This could be the, well, I don't even want to say this could be. This will be the most powerful offense maybe in college football this year because, like you mentioned, the one lesser receiver under James Washington, but then you've got beyond Washington, Jalen McCleskey, like you said, but also Marcel Aitman. All 3 of them are multi-year starters. All 3 of them combined for 15 career touchdown receptions. Justice Hill, we mentioned him in the running game, over 1,000 yards last year, topping all FBS freshmen and earning Big 12 Freshman of the Year honors for the 2016 season. But the question is, can this team put it all together for that perfect season? Can they do it? And I look at this year, just take a step back from what I said, where it's like, man, the game that I'm circling is that Oklahoma State game. They play Pitt again like they did last year. Yes, they beat Pitt, but this one's on the road at Pitt. That could be a game where they get upset. Texas is on the road this year. West Virginia's on the road this year. Those are 2 games. Also, South Alabama's on the road this year. I know that's a real tough one for people. That's a joke, guys. If I get one comment down below, this guy's an idiot, he said Southdale. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. I tried to get one past you.
You know what'll be even funnier?
Someone does it
is
anyways
when someone actually puts it
me.
in the comments.
Yeah, just to fuck with me. But, yeah, I mean, you get Texas, they're on the road, Pitt's on the road. There are games that could be trap games or upset games, but this team, if there's one team, well, really there's two teams in my mind that could rival Oklahoma. Oklahoma State and Kansas State. The only difference that between those two teams, we talked about Kansas State. Oh, they've got so many questions defensively. They got so many questions here that the offense won't be able to stand up. And let's be honest, we haven't talked defensively for the Cowboys. They have some significant holes to fill on defense as well. However, I'm putting more stock in the defensive line for this Cowboy team, led by Jarrell Owens and Jordan Brailford, if he's healthy, and Darian Daniels. I'm putting more stock in those guys on the defensive front than I am in the defense of K-State. And that's the big difference. The defense for Oklahoma State will be better than K-State's. And that's why right now I would say, if you're telling me, Ricky, you get one team to go up against Baker Mayfield for a chance to knock off Oklahoma, I'll pick the Cowboys.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you in your comment of you'll take Oklahoma State's defense over K-State's, because Oklahoma State's defense is a little rocky. They were scored upon plenty of times last year. They gave up 446 yards per game. The safety position's okay. The cornerback position is not good. So I think that K-State probably has a better defense than Oklahoma State's. Oklahoma State needs to certainly... I mean, they need to both certainly do the same things. Is they can't let teams be scoring as many points, putting up as many yards against them. But I think I may take K-State's defense at this point over Oklahoma State's. Again, Oklahoma State's defense, they allowed Central Michigan and Baylor to each convert 50% of the time or more on their third down opportunities. And then Oklahoma converted 46% of the time. And Texas Tech, who lost by just 1 point, by the way, 45-44, converted 47% of the time. So what I want to mention again there is your defense needs to come up with some big stops. And your defense needs to be able to get off the field. That's the point. You can't allow your offense to score you 50 points and for you to lose 52-50. Can't happen. Can't happen. So your defense needs to be an area that you focus on, that you understand that you're not going to be giving up only 10 points a game. That's not going to happen. Not in this conference. Pretty much not in any conference, but certainly not in this conference. But if you're giving up about 20 points a game, you're in every game. You're in every game. You got a quarterback. You got Mason Rudolph. You're in every game. And you should win every game.
Well,
and I'm not saying that the defense needs to do that because they would be taking a huge step up. But they need to find a way to support the offense enough to where they don't lose to a Central Michigan. They're able to have a bigger margin of victory against a Texas Tech. And that you're not allowing these other teams to be so successful on third down.
I want to ask you this. There's a quote that I have in front of me from Mr. Rudolph, and it says, it's about Oklahoma. It says, and I quote, "That's all we talk about around here. That's all we're focused on. So yeah, that's a goal. That's a goal." End quote. I'm going to ask you this question, Brandon. Of course, with quotes, we can read them however we want. We can look at them however we want. Is this a quote that people are going to take out of context and say they're going to be way too focused on Oklahoma? They're going to get upset by some team. West Virginia, K-State, Texas, They're going to be too focused on beating Oklahoma this year that they're going to slip up somewhere else.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, you have to understand, if you know the rivalry between these two, someone brings it up and they mention, a reporter mentions, hey, so what are your thoughts about Oklahoma this year? Oh, that's all we talk about around here. That's that's our biggest rival. That's who we look forward to on the schedule. Not that we're not prepared for the other teams, but we are looking forward. We've already circled weeks, months back. We circled the Oklahoma game on the schedule. That's, again, not to say that they're not prepared for all the other teams, but they know who's 1 and 2. They know what game is going to be the biggest game, but they also understand, and I think Mason Rudolph is a smart enough young man who also understands that the games before that one, if you don't perform well in those, the Oklahoma game ain't going to be too important if you don't win all the other games or the games before that. So I don't think that it should be taken out of context. I completely know what he's saying. I completely agree with him that is the game that you want. You want to be playing that game. You want that game week 1. But I don't think that him saying it like that is bad at all.
And I mean, the last time that they went ahead, and I'm looking at the series record right now, the last two have been going the Sooner way.
Yeah, last time was 2014 when the Cowboys won.
Yep, 2014. And the thing is, that one was in overtime. That was an Oklahoma State team. I'm looking at some of the guys. I mean, their quarterback was Dak Garman. How many of you remember him? The only guy looking here on their kind of on their stat sheet that really is doing anything right now is Tyreek Hill. He's the only one right now that I'm like, oh yeah, I know Tyreek Hill. The other team though that beat them, 2011, was the only other time since I want to say 2003. Yeah, since 2003, they've only beaten them twice. 2011 was the only one. That team though, do you remember who was on that team for Oklahoma State? They had a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver that all went to the NFL. Quarterback, he is now with the Dallas Cowboys. He's their backup or their third stringer, one of the two. Brandon Weeden. Their running back, who was also a Cowboy during his NFL career at one point, Joseph Randall. And then the wide receiver we all know and love who got drafted by the Jaguars, Justin Blackmon.
Ah, yes, a huge success.
Man, that was a team. Randall, Weeden. Like, Weeden, we thought he was going to be the next coming of Joe Montana, basically. That's how I felt like he was hyped coming out, where he was going to be great. I just said Joe Montana. I just threw a name out there, so don't kind of roast me in the comment section. But, yeah, this Oklahoma State team, they're going to, like, I read that quote and I go, man, I am watching that game. I am not missing that game for anything. Like, if I have plans that day, I'm sick that day because I'm staying home and I'm watching the Bedlam series, that game. And like I said, I wish it was the last game of the year. It should be the last game of the year because really I think this year is going to be coming down between those two teams. But we got to get into Oklahoma, end this thing. Any final thoughts you've got about the Cowboys heading into 2017?
Yeah, they're going to be one hell of a team.
Yeah, and we're going to focus it onto you guys. Let us know down below. What do you think of Mason Rudolph? What do you think of this Cowboy team? And I want to hear your thoughts. What's your percentage that this team makes the college football playoff? Because Brandon threw it out there from the fan-sided article. What's your percentage that they make the playoff? And is that even is it viable to say Cowboys to the playoffs? Let us know down below in the comment section.